After the last part of the story delivered the best base under siege story that this show had seen in 6 years, can Before the Flood keep up the same quality of before? Or is it just another letdown in Series 9, and this era as a whole? I mean, this episode's written by Toby Whithouse, so the answer to that is pretty obvious, but let's begin. This episode starts in one of the best ways some of 12's episodes start, and that's by having the Doctor deliver a monologue directly to the audience. Similarly to how the beginning of Listen started with a monologue about dreams. This time, however, it's a monologue about the bootstrap paradox, which not only is interesting enough on its own,
Google it,
but it acts as a good setup for the payoff at the end of this episode, which concludes the narrative of the story really well. So this is a really fantastic opening for the episode. And to make it even better than it already is, it gives us an electric guitar rendition of the Doctor Who theme, and my God! It is fantastic! It just makes me wish that sometime in the future we do get an electric guitar as the main instrument for the title sequence. After that display of audio nut, we get a great back and forth between the Doctor and O'Donnell, and the scenes with her geeking out over the Doctor are great for making her character unlikable and relatable. At this point, I'd almost be convinced that she's gonna die or something, because it's almost as if Toby Whithouse himself did the exact same thing with the character who got on with the Doctor in 2011. Another complaint I have about this scene is that this is Scotland amidst the Cold War, but why hasn't the TARDIS translated all of the Russian? I mean, sure, this is an absolute nitpick with the production, but it's just a bit distracting. After establishing the differences between the ship in the future and the ship in the past, and also establishing that it's a hearse, we meet Prentice, the first ghost from the previous part of the story. And I do actually quite like the fact that he's the same alien as the one that David Walliams was in the God Complex, as I think that writers reusing some of their own alien ideas so far apart is great for world building, which is one of the many reasons I'd love to see Whithouse as showrunner, because he understands taking things from the past and putting them into the present and seeing how they work now, something he did excellently in School Reunion, but I'm getting a bit off track. While Prentice gives us some not-so-subtle exposition about the Fisher King and doing more world-building about his race, it's not Chibnall tier exposition delivery because Prentice does have actually a character, but it could have been done more subtly. Also, it's made up by the nice little line from the Glasses Man.
first proper alien, and he's an idiot.
When we go back to the brilliantly designed underwater base, we get a great little interaction between the Doctor and Lun, which does a little bit of character work for Clara's arc in this season, adding onto the obsession arc by having Clara be only able to think about the Doctor and how he's going to save her, even though at the minute it looks like he's dead from her point of view. She still believes in him. It's a tiny little scene, but I think it's good for keeping up the obsession arc. After that, Cass establishes that the Doctor is saying something different to the other ghosts, which is great for adding more onto the building mystery this episode is going for. And when the Doctor finds out he has to die, Capaldi performs the moment very well, and it really does add onto the drama of the episode very well. And the moment of Clara snapping and shouting at the Doctor, I think is another great scene for adding onto the obsession arc here, as she acts completely selfishly and abruptly to the point where the Doctor has to talk to her privately and try to calm her down. The line where she says that he gave her something else to be was a bloody brilliant line for this version of Clara. A far cry from her seeming reluctance to travel with the Doctor in Series 8 sometimes. Clara is a very inconsistent character, with nothing to tie her back to her home, whether that just be a very poorly set up home life or the loss of Danny Pink. The Doctor has truly engulfed Clara's life, to the point where she can say selfish shit about how unfair it is, and the audience can completely understand it. I'm beginning to notice a pattern with characters saying something isn't fair and then the audience misinterpreting it. But tense usage was much better, just saying, because the 10th Doctor is a consistently written character in all of his series. I have a whole video on this dynamic, by the way, you should totally go and watch it. I'm gonna feel so bad if I ever review all of Series 9 and make it into a complete review, because every 10 minutes I'm just going to mention that fucking video. So we see that the Fisher King escapes and he kills Prentice. Then we get shown the detail that the Ghost Doctor has a ripped shoulder, something that gets paid off later on, which adds more to the mystery of the Doctor dying. After a funny little back and forth between the Doctor and his ghost, the Ghost Doctor's message changes to the chamber will open tonight. Another thing set up and paid off later. This episode is really good at payoff, isn't it? After that, we get shown the Doctor and Glasses trying to stop O'Donnell from leaving the TARDIS, because the Doctor knows that she's next. But she completely ignores him, because of course she does. and takes direct repercussions for it later, which I really like for many reasons, but we'll get to that later. After they find Prentice's corpse, they run away from the Fisher King into a building, and the characters split up for literally no reason, only to then have O'Donnell die. Couldn't have possibly seen that one coming. But I actually do really like the death scene and the fact that she doesn't scream when the Fisher King's right in front of her. It's a way of showing off that she's a strong character without cramming it down the viewer's throat. Something the writers of today really need to take notes on, and not just the writers for Doctor Who. And I do really like how in this scene we see more of the Doctor sacrificing people for the greater cause, something that he did a lot of in Series 8, and I think it's great, as it adds a lot onto the more dark side of his character, and keeps in line with his line about choice.
Sometimes the only choices you have are bad ones, but you still have to choose.
And the Doctor's selfishness towards Clara in this scene acts as a sort of mirror to her selfishness later, as the Glasses Man rightfully points out in this excellent moment. It's almost as if this series arc is revolving around these two characters and their obsessive nature or something. However, the one thing really bringing down this scene is the Glasses Man himself. Because not gonna lie, his acting in this scene in particular, and in a few others, is really bad. And that's especially noticeable when you're next to an actor like Capaldi, whose gravitas and acting can carry even the most dull moments in any story. But Glasses is so flat and emotionless in this scene that the music is really the only one carrying on how horrific this scene is meant to be. Thank the lords for Murray Gold. The Doctor then gets locked in his own time stream, which is a really effective way of raising the stakes for the story, as it makes the TARDIS effectively useless for this part, as the Doctor cannot escape, and we even get a nice little line from the Doctor about why you can't cheat time and cut off tragedy, which seems to act as a great way of establishing the Doctor's rules and mindset, but also as a sort of nice callback to the Waters of Mars when the Doctor says,
Tell him, understand, not a word, we don't have that right.
The whole of history could change. The future of the human race. No one should have that much power.
And it's nice that we get a payoff for that seemingly random sound in the episode earlier.
What are you doing here? Ah, yes.
Even though they don't sync up perfectly, it's nice that this detail was included. Little bits of attention to detail like this are a really nice novelty that we really took for granted, as we get none of that now. I really like the moment where Clara tries to send Lund to get the phone back, as not only is she using some really good deductive skills here, as we can see her figure out why he's the only one who can do it, seeing some of the Doctor's skills rub off on her. There's also a little hint of the obsession arc, where she starts off by saying, I need the Doctor, but then changes it to we need the Doctor back. I'm sure by the time I've finished reviewing Series 9, all of these subtle moments will look really unsubtle because I keep bonking you on the head with all of these details, but most of these details are the ones that I've forgotten, because unlike Ten and Rose, there's a lot more hints at the point that the obsession between these two characters is meant to be a bad thing. So I'm sorry if me pointing them out does get a little irritating, but there is quite a lot of them. One aspect about this scene that doesn't work, however, is Cass trying to paint Clara as if she's in the wrong. Because despite that little line, she is correct here. Lun is the only one who's guaranteed to be saved from the ghost, as proven twice before. It's not like she sent him out there just because she doesn't like him or something.
Okay, didn't need anyone to translate that.
Ha! I don't get it.
The Doctor then confronts the Fisher King and I've just gotta say, I fucking adore the Fisher King and seriously wish that the villain makes a return in the future. His design is absolutely fucking spectacular. You can instantly imagine him as a warlord and a threat, especially because of the size of him. And the voice, oh, the voice isn't half chilling and threatening. Seriously, this villain is magnificent. And how ironic that he's voiced by Peter, I will not try to pronounce your last name out of respect, who played the Tick, and many other fantastic acting roles. In case I hadn't made it clear why it's ironic, I wrote into the script that I make the meme with the Tick. My only real complaint with him is that I want more of him. Like, even the Doctor's reaction to him really accentuate the threat of him, and Capaldi performs the fear excellently. Come on, there's a story begging to be told with this villain again. Just bring back Whithouse, man!
Time Lords, cowardly, vain curators who suddenly remembered they had teeth and became the most warlike race in the galaxy.
So. You're telling me Not only is Whithouse better at world building than Moffat, better at understanding companion dynamics, but he also has a better understanding of the Time War and the Time Lords as a whole. And the BBC still chose Chris Chibnall over this man. Sometimes I question the integrity and logic of the BBC, but then I remember that it's the BBC. So Clara and Cass go to try and find Lun because he's been gone for more than 5 minutes, and we get a really interesting segment of the episode where we're put in a Cass's perspective of hearing things, which is one of the most standout points of the episode, as it gives the viewers a nice understanding and perspective of what it's like to be deaf. And I remember when I first saw this as a kid, it really stuck out to me and made me think about it a lot more. And I'm glad they actually used the character's deafness effectively, rather than just having someone disabled in the cast just for the sake of looking good. They show a deaf person... They show how a deaf... Oh, I don't know how to say this without sounding insensitive, fuck! Okay, off script, I'm just gonna say it like this. It might sound insensitive, I don't mean it that way. They show off, like, what it's like being a deaf person really well in this episode, like how she can lip read really well, and in this scene in particular it's really good. I don't want to say they show off the abilities of being a deaf person well, because I don't know, that sentence just doesn't sound right to me. It sounds off, so I'm just saying it like this, and I'm also giving the warning that I'm saying it like this because I fucking can't think how to word it properly without coming off as insensitive. The brilliant dialogue between the Doctor and the Fisher King continues, and the Doctor blows up the dam that was protecting the town with one of the ship's power cells, and it kills the Fisher King in a fitting fashion for how powerful the character is. However, one thing that annoys me about this scene is the effect of taking the character off screen, because it looks fucking terrible, and continues the unfortunate trend of Series 9's production obviously being rushed, because sometimes it can look fantastic, then other times it can look shit, and this is unfortunately one of those times. Then Capaldi enters God mode and tricks the aliens into the Faraday cage, and we get a great explanation of what the ghosts actually were, which concludes their mystery nicely. And the scene of Lun and Cass getting together was a nice way to send off the characters. And Clara's little speech to Glasses was also pretty good, but once again, Glasses' flat acting brings this scene down, again, making it feel not as impactful as it should be emotionally. And then the payoff of the bootstrap paradox is explained with the electric guitar playing out the episode once again. What a fantastic way to end an episode. So, that was Before the Flood. A great continuation on the previous part of the story, satisfyingly paying off everything built up throughout, with a lot of clever dialogue, character writing, and an absolutely brilliant villain. While there's a few problems here and there, like a couple predictable moments here and there, the Fisher King unfortunately not getting a lot to do despite his amazing dialogue and presence, and the Glasses Man bringing down a couple scenes by his shit acting, but they can't take away from this story's satisfying conclusions, great mystery build-up and payoff, and a great story throughout, making this easily one of the best Base Under Siege mystery stories of all time, but Under the Lake is slightly better. Up next! I'm feeling right motivated to review Series 9. Up next! Oh my fucking god. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm so fucking, ill. Well, I'm not ill, I have a blocked nose, and yeah, I might sound more nasally than usual, but I don't know, man.